everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I'm Alex. I make book and lifestyle and coaching and business content. Welcome in. In today's video, we are doing a November wrap up. So this is everything I got to read and a few things I didn't in the month of November. We are in Vlogmas, so I'm very excited to be delivering another episode of Vlogmas to you. If you haven't already caught up with the rest of the videos, make sure you subscribe and check them all out. We have various book related, BookTube, BookTok related content, so yeah, lots for you to check out there. In today's video, we have our three categories. So we had BookTube and BookTok favourites, we had finishing series, so there were a few series here that I needed to finish. Some of them I did, I think one I didn't, and book club. So those are the categories for November's reads, and I'm very excited to dive into them. We have some 5 stars, we have some 3 and 4 stars, and we have some DNFs and did not starts. So let's head into them. So to begin with, we had the Song of Achilles, which was a started but not completed for me. So I didn't DNF it in the sense that I didn't want to continue it, but I did not finish it because I just didn't have time. So that is Song of Achilles. We've got it right here on the shelf. Within this story, if you aren't familiar with it, we have Patroclus, I think, and Achilles, I think. They become friends and then something deeper. So I got to the part in the story, which hopefully this isn't a spoiler, where Patroclus gets shamed, so he is sent to Achilles' land or place to live. So Achilles lives with his family and Patroclus is sent there, sort of exiled and shamed and sent away from his family. So I didn't get further than their first official meeting. They had met once previous to where I'd seen them. So like Achilles and Patroclus were aware the other existed, but I got to the part where they first properly introduced themselves. And that is literally as far as I got. So I think that was maybe like 40 or 50 pages in. Really not that far. I really don't know anything about the rest of the story other than the fact that they kind of develop this friendship and then it becomes something deeper. But I have no idea past that where it gets to. I've had so many people message me on my Instagram when I posted that I was reading The Song of Achilles to say it was one of their favourite books ever. So I'm really sad that I didn't get to finish it. I'm hopefully going to get time over Christmas when I have a bit of downtime to pick this back up. But yeah, lots of people saying it's one of their favourite books ever. So if you haven't read it, maybe put it on your list. It's been good so far. I just didn't get further because I didn't have enough time. Our next book was a 4.75 star that could have been a 5 star but ended up being a 4.75. I might still revise this on a second read. This might become a 5 star on my second read, but for my first read through, we're sticking with 4.75. I loved Six of Crows. This is Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo, by the way. Some of the characters ended up getting on my nerves because they were teenagers, but caveat to that is that they were then written perfectly because they were teenagers in the book. So it's a bit of a pet peeve where characters are 18 or 19, like they're children, they're teenagers, but they make decisions and they are expected to make decisions as if they are 25, 35, like made to be adults where they aren't actually supposed to be. Their thought patterns, their thinking, their morals are all supposed to be quite selfish and self-centered still because they are teenagers. Like their world literally revolves around them. So that sometimes in fantasy and stuff can kind of get a bit mixed up. But in Six of Crows, they were written as teenagers. They had thought patterns and tendencies to do things that teenagers do. They were a little bit reckless, a little bit living life by the wire, and it just made sense. Although it was annoying and frustrating because they were making decisions and living by the wire and you're like, no, protect yourself, like do this, do that. That is what I would think to do as a 25-year-old woman, not as a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid. So yeah, they were written perfectly in that sense, but yes, they did get on my nerves a little bit. I really did connect with each character. I felt all the feelings that they were feeling as they were feeling them. And one thing I really loved was like I couldn't tell what was going to happen next. I really didn't know what Lee was going to bring next into the story. I didn't know what decisions our characters were going to make. I didn't know, a lot of the time, how they were going to escape the situation they were currently in. So I really did love that about this story. It wasn't super predictable. It kept me gripped. It kept me on my toes. I'm pretty sure I binged this in a couple days, if not like a couple hours. It was a great read. I really, really enjoyed this. The ending is what made it go from a 5-star to a 4.75 star, but only because my satisfaction levels kind of were disappointed by the happenings of the ending. Otherwise, I think this would have stayed a 5-star. I don't think, like, up until the ending, I think this was a 5-star read. I do think the beginning took a second to get into, but that's because the Grishaverse is a very vast and intense magical system, and I'd forgotten what that was like. So getting into it was a little bit slower just because I needed to reframe myself in the Grishaverse, which is like the universe that Lee's set this kind of stories of like the Shadow and Bone trilogy and the Six of Crows duology. The realm this is set in, it's like quite an intense magic system. So until I got myself into that world, it took a minute, but that kind of usually happens with fantasy anyway. So not too much of an issue. But yeah, the ending kind of let it down for me a little bit, but I'm still really happy with Six of Crows. And I'm very, very much excited to be reading. Can I speak? To be reading Crooked Kingdom. I'm very excited for that one. So that was Six of Crows. So that concludes our BookTube and BookTok favourites. We are now on to finishing series that I have previously started. In this category are some great books, and I'm very excited to talk about them. So we'll begin with my did not start, because I don't have a lot to say about it, but that was Finale by Stephanie Garber. Trying to think of her name then. I could see it in my head, but I couldn't say it. By Stephanie Garber. So this is book 3 in a trilogy, and I just didn't get time to start this, but I would have really loved to have read this in November. I would really like to again finish this before the end of the year, so hopefully over Christmas again I will get a little bit of time to add this to my TBR, but it's not a huge priority. I would just really like to finish this series because I was really invested, and still am really invested. I really want to know what's going to happen with our characters. I won't say any more than that because of course it's book 3 in a trilogy. I don't want to spoil the other two. But yeah, that was Finale by Stephanie Garber. For our next read, we have a 3.75 star read, and this was Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. I enjoyed this relationship between our two characters, Wes and Ada. I think it was like a really cute relationship. I liked how much she would stand her ground and take care of herself first. Like, she wouldn't just kind of let Wes do or say or like think what he wanted. She was quite clear in her boundaries and where she stood and like what was valuable to her in her life. So I really liked that. I liked her developing relationship with the women in like the Rebel Blue Ranch world. I really liked how that kind of bond between all the girls started developing, and the kind of insider info we'd get on the other couples and the other happenings in like the ranch and like the ranch world without it being like specifically a filler book or a way to like get to the next person's story. I did like the way that she kind of added in other plot lines that we know are in previous books or will continue into the next books. I quite liked that. So that was a good thing. The project within Swift and Saddled that they were working on at the ranch was actually quite interesting to me because I do enjoy interior design. I do enjoy thinking about those kind of things. So when that like plotline perpetually kept being brought up, it was actually interesting. I feel like in some romances we have like a side plot or a project or like some kind of thing that brings the characters together that's actually really of no relevance past it just being the way they meet, and it can get quite annoying to like keep being brought out of the romance to a kind of like a mediocre plot line that's just like filler to make a reason for them to come together. But I did quite enjoy the project within this. So yeah, it wasn't annoying that it was brought up consistently. I do think both characters could have had more depth and like could have been filled out a little bit more in their backstories and things like that. But for a shorter romance, it kind of makes sense because you kind of have to sacrifice plot and like character development in order to get the romance off the ground, because otherwise you're kind of just having an insta love at the end. If you put too much development and like world building or whatever in the beginning stage to establish the characters, you don't really have the word space to then make the romance that much more believable. So I think I'd prefer a little bit more shallow of a character and a better romance for a romance book than I would a kind of longer drawn out but fleshed out plotline and character arc to then have like an insta love. If it was like a longer romance when we got where we got everything, or it's like a multiple part romance within, like, I guess this is romantasy really, isn't it? I prefer romantasy. Yeah, you get the point. I'm rambling. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Swift and Saddled. I enjoyed it. It wasn't revolutionary. It's kind of close to a 4-star, but my 4 stars are kind of exclusively for things that I would reread again, because there are so many books that I read. If I'm giving everything 4-star and above, it just doesn't make sense, because I don't love books that I wouldn't reread, if you see what I mean. So yeah, a 3.75 star. It's fine enough. I definitely recommend it to other people who want romance reads. If you haven't got this on your list and you love romance and you love cowboys and things like that, being on a ranch, Swift and Saddled is for you. We're going to go back to back with romances. We're going to go back to back with romances, and we have next Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. Now this was a 4-star read, so surprisingly, I would read this romance again. I actually really, really loved Skylar in this story. I liked her struggles. I thought they were quite realistic and tangible. It was like a real character. It felt like a real celebrity that we kind of knew the backstory for, and we knew what she was like. In my head, she's basically Sabrina Carpenter. Not saying any of Skylar's story is anything to do with Sabrina Carpenter, but in my head, they were one and the same person. I think, yeah, her story is quite realistic. It wasn't super shallow. We kind of felt her emotions and her betrayal and things like that. And it was a solid plot to go along with the romance, rather than just like something to fill time and like make a reason for the characters to meet. Wes was interesting. He was quite an interesting guy. I really loved his relationship with his kids. I did feel like he could have had more depth. I feel like we kind of stopped at the level of, okay, he's a dad. Okay, he's a bit lonely. And that's really where we stopped. I get that kind of there wasn't enough space and time to explain all of the stories in a lot of depth. I do wish he had like a little bit more character development, but like it was fine. It wasn't detrimental to the story. I didn't keep wondering like what's going on with Wes, what is his story, things like that. It was a very well filled out romance story, I believe. I overall enjoyed it. I'd probably read this again, hence why this was a 4-star. Like if I was gonna crave an easy breezy romance, I'd probably pick this up again. But yeah, it does the job as a romance. I would recommend this to other people to read. For our final book in the category of finishing series I've started, we have our 5-star read. We have the crown jewel of the video. We have Fatebreaker by Victoria Aveyard. Now, if I could just gush for about 25 minutes on this whole thing, spoiler everything, like literally just word vomit every thought I've ever had about this series, we'd be here for a great time, and you'd probably love it, and I'd probably love it, but also I can't spoil this story for anyone, so I can't do it. But just know, I want to. This is one of the best series I've ever read. Fatebreaker, Realmbreaker, Bladebreaker, the Breaker series is one of the best I've ever read in my whole life. This, I believe, will be a classic trilogy one day. I've said it from Realmbreaker, the very first book. I said it again when I was reading Bladebreaker. I've confirmed it now that I finished Fatebreaker. I believe this will be a classic, as Little Women is, as Jane Austen, as Lord of the Rings. I believe this will be a classic one day. I think it's incredible. I absolutely loved it. Every character outperformed my expectations of them. The ending upset me, but like it made so much sense that I couldn't argue with Victoria. Like she laid out the core values, the morals, of each character so distinctly that even if you didn't agree with where she chose to take each character and where she chose to take each plot, like each plot line, you couldn't argue that it wasn't perfect for each character. It was just so well crafted. Thinking back on Bladebreaker and Realmbreaker and seeing the progression of the characters all the way to the end of Fatebreaker, every moment made so much sense. Every conversation, every act of defiance or union or betrayal or hint and spark of something more, all of it made such deep, like, gut-wrenching sense. I was on the edge of my seat this entire series wondering how Victoria was going to stab me in the heart this time. And stab me in the heart she did multiple times. These are like love to hate to love the villains. The villain arcs were like chef's. Glory be to the chef. These were incredible villains. I honestly haven't read more like tangible, frustrating, like I want to do this, lovable main villains in a while. Like the villains within, because there's more than one villain within the 3 stories, within the 3 books, like within the trilogy, sorry. And all of the other iffy characters, like everyone was just brilliant. Even if I hated them, they were brilliant. I truly think I will struggle to find a series to top this for a very long time. I'm going to be thinking about these characters and thinking about this story every day until the next time I pick up this series to do a reread. And honestly, it's not going to be that long because I'm just obsessed. They've like become besties and I simply want more, even though the story's ended and we know the fates, well, the current fates, shall we say, of each of the characters. Like, I don't want it to end here. I want to know what happens next. I want to like explore all of the ward, because like the realm, the plane of existence they are in is called the ward. I want to explore every corner of it. I want to see what all of the other continents and countries are like. There's such a huge portion of the book where I'm like, I want to go to this place. I want to see what this is. And although we didn't get there, which makes so much sense, I'm also like, oh no, like I need another book and I need more from this world. I just need more. But yeah, these are characters I'll think about every day and love. Even though I love to hate to love them, I love them all the same. And I think this is a series, if you haven't ever read the Realmbreaker series, this is one you absolutely need on your 2025 list. Non-negotiable. Like, if you trust my opinion on books so far, trust in the fact that you will love and live and die for this series. Fatebreaker, 5-star. If I could give it 6, I would. Maybe actually this will be my first 6-star book. That concludes our finishing series. We have one more category and one more book to go in this video. We have book club, which is the book club I do with some of my best friends. And we have as the book, The Story Collector by, I think her name is Evie something. Evie Woods. Story Collector by Evie Woods. So this is going to be a very, very short roundup because I started but did not finish this book. I'm enjoying it so far. It's quite an interesting book. I'm quite gripped on her story. I'm very interested to know what's happening next, but I am only 11% of the way in. So there is still a lot to go. I left it with the character being set up quite well. I'm interested to see who or what is going to happen next, because we are in the point in her journey where something is like, we're on the cusp of meeting the person or tripping over the thing and like falling into the rest of the story. So at 11% in, I still don't really know what's going on, but I'm interested to see what is going to happen to and with her character. So yeah, that is pretty much all I have to say about The Story Collector by Evie Woods. It was started but not finished. I'm still enjoying it. I am definitely going to finish it because I've got book club coming up very shortly. So this is going to be a lie in my bed and binge this over like 4 hours. And that concludes my November reading wrap up. Thank you for getting to this point. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you take me up on reading the Realmbreaker series if you haven't already. I simply will stand on a hill and put my sword straight through it for this book. Like, this is a hill I'm willing to stand 10 toes down, 10 toes down on. But that is it from me. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure you like it and leave a comment to let me know that you've enjoyed the wrap up, and any books from this that you have either read or are going to read as a result of this video. I would love, love, love to talk about them in the comments. Make sure you follow me on my socials so you can keep up with the books I'm reading in real time. And that is all from me. I will see you in tomorrow's Vlogmas video, which is the final day of Vlogmas. We are doing the 12 days of Vlogmas, so tomorrow is the final video. And yeah, that is it from me. I will see you in tomorrow's video. Bye guys.